This right here will be an easy win, I would say, for TEAMGROUP, because right here we have the TEAMGROUP T-FORCE CARDEA A440. This is Gen 4 x 4 1TB, and as they stated on the box, read speeds go up to 7000 megabytes per second and the write speeds go up to 6900 megabytes per second. Now you have an option, which I tested literally everything here. We have the graphene passive heatsink, and we have the additional passive heatsink that comes with the bottom part. You have also here the thermal pad, and of course the passive top part that is designed for a better heat dissipation. Now what I would suggest while testing is that you don't place your M.2, this one or any other, vertically, because you don't have any airflow through this. This way, when you place it like so, the air goes directly through the fins and cools down the passive heatsink, well, basically the SSD. This will give you some consistency in speeds, this will give you some consistency in thermals, and you won't have any, let's say, unsudden spikes or drops in speeds. Now there's also some other things. It says operating temperature up to from 0 to 70 degrees Celsius, which with the graphene only passive heatsink, so without the motherboard passive heatsink, without this passive heatsink, it went up to actually 81 degrees, and it had consistency still, so that's a good thing as well to mention. But what I would suggest is you would definitely be more glad to use this or the motherboard passive heatsink, just in case it doesn't thermal throttle. It didn't happen to me, honestly, but my benchmarks lasted about 30 minutes individually, and for some of you guys that game longer than 30 minutes, logical, might happen. I don't know, I didn't try, to be honest, but it might happen. So we have PCI Gen 4, we have graphene and aluminum passive heatsink, so it's basically 1+1 heatsink, which you can basically combine both of those. So graphene, thermal pad and aluminum, that's good. It comes in two varieties, basically two sizes. You have 1TB and you have 2TB. Storage temperature, now the operating temperature is from 0 to 70 degrees. Storage temperature is from -40 to +85 degrees Celsius. It has DRAM cache, which is good. Terabytes written on 1TB is 700, while 2TB is 1400. Crystal disk mark, what they say, and I'm going to state what they measured. So crystal disk mark read write 7 gigabits per second, 5.5 gigabits per second on 1TB. On 2TB is 7 gigabits per second, write is 6.9 gigabytes per second. The dimensions, this might be interesting for you because the white with the aluminum heatsink is 23.4 millimeters, while without it is 22. Then we have the height 3.7 with the graphene heatsink, and with the aluminum heatsink 12.9 millimeters. Mean time before failure is 3 million hours. Now it has Phison E18 controller paired up with Micron's 96L TLC flash, and the heatsink is compatible with PS5. But here's the catch, the lid actually hurts the cooling performance on the PS5. So basically you either go for better cooling performance or you go with more dust, so there's that. We have DDR4 DRAM, memory is Micron 96L TLC, and it's standard size M2 2280. It also comes with smart data reporting capability and trim. TEAMGROUP supports CARDEA A440 with basic SSD toolbox that can be used to monitor SSD's health and benchmark the drive. Features end-to-end data path protection, thermal throttle, active state power management, and APST, which stands for Autonomous Power State Transition. Optimizes the NVM sets distribution mechanism and predictable latency mode, DPLM, effectively reducing latency while minimizing read-write damage and improving the system QoS. Uses the latest read recovery level, RRL, technology to extend the SSD service life. So basically, let's check out the speeds. We have quite loads of results, so I'm just gonna pick one because we have 3 times 3 different results, basically 4. We have ASSD, Autodisk benchmark, and Crystal Disk Mark, and also real-life testing with 90.1 gigabyte file. We have that with the aluminum heatsink, we have it with graphene heatsink, and we have it with motherboard heatsink. So I'm gonna pick Crystal Disk Mark. It goes up to 59 degrees Celsius with the original aluminum heatsink. Read speeds go up to 7313, write speeds go up to 5857. With graphene heatsink, Crystal Disk Mark goes up to 6232, and the write speeds go up to 4258 at the temperature of 81 degrees Celsius. And then when we combine the motherboard heatsink with the graphene heatsink, Crystal Disk Mark 59 degrees Celsius with read speeds going up to 7378, while the write speeds go up to 5870. So basically what happens here is that with the higher temperature, definitely above 70 degrees Celsius, it kind of does drop down with the speeds, but it doesn't thermal throttle. It lowers the speeds, but it still has consistency, which is good. And with motherboard heatsink and the aluminum heatsink, basically the speeds are almost the same. And in real life testing, we have read speeds going up to 4 gigabits per second, while the write speeds go up to 3.75 gigabits per second. And it kind of goes with the standard aluminum heatsink, with the graphene heatsink, and even with the a bit lower speeds with the motherboard heatsink plus graphene. So what they did with the CARDEA A440 is outstanding in terms of consistency. The thermals should be kept under those 70 degrees without a doubt with the either aluminum plus graphene or motherboard heatsink with graphene. If you go just with the graphene one, it will give you lower speeds without a doubt, but you will have still consistency, so you won't have some accidental drops or anything that will hurt your long time performance, let's put it that way. But all in all, I would say with this heatsink, which you already seen on my channel, I already reviewed other TEAMGROUP's products with this passive heatsink, which really does the job. I have to admit, it really cools it down perfectly. The motherboard heatsink also does the job exceptionally. So yeah, it's up to you to decide after all if you want to go with the motherboard heatsink or you want to go with the aluminum one that comes in the box. But it's really cool that TEAMGROUP gives you an option to choose if you're gonna go with the graphene or aluminum. Are you going to use your motherboard passive heatsink, or you're gonna use this one which is attached? So I think it all comes down, if it was my personal opinion, it all comes down to what kind of motherboard you have. If it already has a passive heatsink, you don't have to use this one because the thermals are a bit similar, I think a bit higher on the motherboard. But then again, it's all up to you to decide if you want to have this more aggressive look, more aggressive design, depending on the visuals on the motherboard. But that's that. So all in all, I'm quite satisfied with the performance when we're having a proper cooling, I would say, right? But then again, we have all the technology packed inside the CARDEA A440, especially with the speeds and all the other stuff that I shown you in the graphs, so you can decide if this is good for you, of course. The link for the TEAMGROUP T-FORCE CARDEA A440 with 2 heatsink, graphene and aluminum is in the description below, so you can check out the price and everything that you additionally need to know. And that will be all for today. Finally, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button. See you very soon in another video. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.